Hello, welcome. I'm going to be talking about ignoring the food and medicine that is around us. And, for the longest time, I lived in this state where I had no idea that food grows outside. I thought food only came from the grocery store. And then when my mom started to garden, I was like, oh, food grows. Food can grow in the ground. That was an interesting realization. Um, but yeah, I think I really started to become aware about the the abundance of food that grows around me when I started to bike to work. My car broke down, and the only way I could get to work was to bike. And biking really forces you to look around you, and so you don't get ran over. But I remember going to work one day, and I didn't even pack a lunch. Like I was running late, and I am like going on the street, this main street, and I bike past this big tree with these like balls hanging from the tree, and I'm like, wait, hold on, what is that? And I go back, and I'm like, wait, these are pears. These are pears just growing on this main street, and there was two trees growing pears, and there was hundreds of pears on both of these trees, and I'm like, these trees are obviously old. Like they've been here for at least 15 years. And it's like, how long have I lived in this neighborhood and I never noticed it? And I grabbed a few and I took a few to work, and I was like, wow, I was saved. I had no money. I didn't pack a lunch, and I was like, wow, I got to eat that day because of the fruit that was on those trees. And then it made me start to question, like, how much more fruit, how much more food is around. And around the same time, I was also looking into multiple different herbs so that I can heal some gut issues that I have. And I was discovering that, for example, dandelion, something that we consider as a weed, is actually really beneficial for heart health and for digestive health, and it grows naturally pretty much in any plot of land. And and then finding out there's so many, infinitely more, thousands of different herbs that grow that we would consider weed, or just like a normal plant, but they're really powerful medicines. And that a lot of medicines that people take from the from the pharmacy are actually replicating are trying to replicate the active ingredients in those medicines, or they actually extract the active ingredients from those plants. And there's so much that we just ignore, really. Like every day I started discovering more fruit trees, like mulberries all around me, and never thought about to eat it. And it's like started to come back to me, like, yeah, I do remember these berries here. I thought they were poisonous. And just this like massive disconnection, um growing up and not realizing the fruit that was around. And I filmed a lot of videos on my channel talking about different fruit trees that grow in my neighborhood, and how most people live in that state where they just completely don't see it, or they see it but they don't think it's good to eat, or they just think that it's private property and they're not going to even touch it. um, and I knew there was more, and I knew that in order for me to learn more about the different herbs, like the medicine, and learn more about the plants that are edible, different fruit trees, I knew I needed to go live off the land, essentially. And so I decided to go to California for a couple months and stay on a few farms to get back connected to learning about how to grow. And what's interesting there, like you meet a lot of like-minded people who are at least interested in learning more about nature. They love to be in nature. They tend to eat a little bit healthier. But even then, like I remember on the first farm in California, we had it was an olive farm, and so we the olives were reserved for olive oil, but they had a bunch of other stuff growing there too. They had a couple different like I think they had an apple tree, and then they had what else did they had guavas. I think they had guavas, and then they had an employee garden there with like I think squash, pumpkin, tomatoes, cabbage, tons of different peppers. I remember there was tons of peppers for days. And although that was there and available for us, we often opted out to eat more food from the grocery store instead of eating what was available there, right? And I think a lot of it comes to comfort zone and not wanting to explore, or maybe our taste buds are really so are so programmed to only enjoy certain foods. But I just remember like I went ham, like eating so many apples. Like the apple tree that was on this farm like produced so many apples, and it was like this very sweet like a honey, some type of, I forget the name of it, but it tasted like honey, honestly. And I was pretty much the only one who was like eating it. And that was staying on this farm, we used to fill up the garbage cans like so quickly because of how much food we were buying from the grocery store. And just it was really disheartening to see. Okay, we're out in the country, on the farm, but yet we still rely so much on the grocery store. And then I, after left this farm, I went to a second farm. This one was an off-grid farm, so a completely different vibe. And this farm had like 3 times the size of a garden, growing tons of herbs. We had like 20 or so fruit trees on the property. There was a lot growing there, avocados, figs, different types of we had different types of persimmons, different types of guavas. There wasn't even an apple tree that had like 4 types of apples growing on one tree, which was like mind-blowing to see. We had tomatoes growing in a greenhouse. We had peppers in the greenhouse. We had there was a lot of stuff growing there. And even I remember waking up every day on my path to go to the kitchen, I would pass these 2 massive fig trees. So many, like these fig trees were so big, and so there would be so much fruit on the floor, so many figs. Like I'm talking about thousands and thousands of figs on the floor, and and there was still a lot on the tree. And I remember I would grab like 10 or 12 and that would kind of be part of my breakfast. And even guavas, there was guavas, and I would just stuff myself with guavas and figs. But you know what? My other farm coworkers, they were eating Raisin Bran for breakfast. Like, what? We have this natural sugar growing on trees, really nutritious, full of many vitamins, no preservatives, but yet they would rather eat Raisin Bran. They would rather eat cereal. They would rather eat these processed carbs than to eat something that grows naturally. And even I remember this farm, we would spend the owner would buy us beer, but we would spend so much on alcohol. but when we can literally ferment the fruit, we could have fermented the guavas, which one of my coworkers did, ended up fermenting the guavas and made like a really great tasting, like slightly alcoholic kombucha. And before I left, he also made an alcoholic fruit beverage with the different fruits on the farm. But I was wondering, like, why aren't we doing this more? Like, why aren't we consuming what's growing naturally? And it's just because we're really addicted we're addicted to the commercial, like to whatever the marketing or of these different brands. Like, right, maybe we want to fit a notion, we want to fit an ideal that these brands are prime portray, or it's like a club that we put ourselves in because we all eat the same food. But also I feel like we're ignorant. We're ignorant on the benefits of the different fruits, and vegetables. Like, we're ignorant on the history of those vegetables, how they came to be, what cultures cultivated them, why they were. We would find out that ancient cultures would praise some of these fruits and vegetables, literally praise it. Like, even you would, I'm sure we would find out that only royalty were allowed to consume certain fruits and vegetables. Like, I went to Honduras and I visited my grandma, and my grandma has papayas growing. She has avocados. She has coconuts. Just a lot of growing there. And she has cacao. She has cacao growing. And I come to realize that cacao was consumed by Mayan royalty only, and they would actually consume it with allspice, and there was an allspice tree on the property as well. And my grandma doesn't do anything with the cacao. Doesn't Being completely disconnected. We're completely ignorant to the history of like the food we eat, and we're completely disconnected to the meaning and the importance of the food. And it's a little bit, it's disheartening to really, that we would rather buy processed drinks, like sugar drinks, like different pops, Coca-Cola, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, Pepsi, with different juices. We would rather buy that. We would rather buy these big name brands than to eat naturally growing fruit and naturally growing vegetables, like, and getting like really clean food. We prefer the processed stuff over the real stuff. And I think this really comes down to, yeah, like I said, there is a massive gap in education. And really, to me, what I'm seeing, the reason why there's a gap is because we have lost the connection with growing the food as well. We've completely separated ourselves from growing our food, that we don't even take the time to learn about the temperatures and the right growing practices. And because we're so far removed from that process, and because we have instant access to the food at the grocery store, we don't, and because then we're always rushing to eat our food as well, we just live in this like just complete disconnected state. So we don't even take time to contemplate these important aspects of our food, like I said before, like the cultural importance, who started growing these foods in the beginning first, where they originated from, all these different things, like what was crossed, like none of that. We're just so disconnected from that. And I think to learn about benefits, to learn about how to change our diet, to fix health outcomes, we really do need to put ourselves back into a position where we grow our own food. And it's gonna motivate us to then learn about these things. And especially we are surrounded by people who are doing the same, we'll be able to inspire each other to further our education in this realm. And it'll be easier because if I'm learning about figs and you're learning about apples, and we have a couple friends who are learning about avocados, and one person's learning about 100 herbs and the other person's learning about another 100 different herbs, we'll be able to come together and share this information and lean into each other's expertise. But yeah, so I just wanted, that was a quick story on the ignorance of the food and medicine that's around us. And I am an optimist, and I believe that we are going to reconnect to our food. But it really does. It will start when the community starts to make efforts to growing our own food. So we need to start more community gardens. We need more people to start growing their backyards. We need people to come together, share what we're growing. We need more people on here. We need gardeners, people who are into permaculture. We need you to start TikTok and YouTube channels. We need a mass wave of you guys to come on here and influence us to get into that realm. And yeah, and if you guys are interested in having more discussions to want to organize, you're interested in wanting to organize and figure out ways to collaborate on building like a new way of living, building, the community gardens, a network of community gardens. Join my Discord, link in bio. Invite a friend, let's go, let's start to connect. And it's crazy, when we start to build and we start to organize and we get energy in, we may create opportunities for ourselves to live in those very settings where we are connected to growing our own food and learning about our food and the benefits of the food. So yeah, everybody, I'm gonna cut off my YouTube recording here. Take care, YouTubers. Take care, YouTube community. Catch you in the next video.